Hello everyone, this is Paul the Oakenite coming to you with a review of the board game version of This War of Mine. While TIWAM is not a war game per se, it is most definitely a war-themed game. In TIWAM, you are managing a team of 3 survivors in an urban war zone that is under siege. Under your guidance, your team progresses through the daily grind of staying alive in the most depressing environment imaginable. Forget about winning. This game is all about not losing, which in this context means losing your life. As a game, This War of Mine is not a new game and has a history. Beginning as a computer game in 2014, my first impression was that it was some kind of simple side-scroller, and I passed on it. Then came the board game in 2017 and 2 expansions in the years that followed. Somehow, it passed under my radar until about a month ago. Since then, I have been barely able to put it down. So let's dig in and see what TIWAM is all about. Components, the map. The 2-sided map focuses on the safe house your team is trying to develop into a shelter that will sustain them until the ceasefire goes into effect and they can breathe again. The map is hard-mounted, and even better, lies flat on the table from the get-go. Only maps by Flying Pig compare. The map portrays the various rooms in the safe house, which may or may not be very safe due to night raids from other survivors. Each room begins the game with what amounts to a terrain card that can be examined for loot or in some cases removed to gain access to other parts of the house. Unlike the Skyrim map, the TIWAM map contains spaces to put the many decks of cards required to play the game. While overwhelming at first, players quickly become familiar with each of them, ranging from locations to explore, events that range from merely bad to downright horrible, visitors, character cards, objectives, and goals, and more. Cards and playing pieces. The remaining components are first-rate. Cards are full-size, glossy, made of good cardstock, and clearly put together. I recommend sleeving them, but that, of course, is up to you. Playing pieces are the same and are individually mounted on their sprues. They punch out with ease and do not require any cleanup. Most pieces represent the various goodies survivors may find, such as the various categories of food, medicines, weapons, and components. Each category is color-coded to group together for certain game functions, such as when night raiders target green tokens representing food-related items. Some components represent basic resources, water, wood, and generic components that are used to construct items. Basic resources are represented by plastic tokens to differentiate them from the more advanced components printed on counters. Basic resources have no trade value, but are essential to improving your safe house with the various improvements that are available. The journal. At first, the journal looks more like a marketing insert than a rule book, but it is the backbone of the rules that are presented immediately, as well as the launchpad for pointing players to more advanced rules printed in the Book of Scripts. The game box boasts that players can jump into the game immediately without reading a rule book. This is sort of true and sort of not. The journal leads players through the major phases of the turn, which represents a single day. The day is divided into major divisions of the day, such as dawn, morning, afternoon, and so forth, and each is described in turn in the journal. Further, the journal references sections within the Book of Scripts for further reading, which is not optional in my view. The game has a learning curve, albeit one that can be mostly overcome in a couple of playthroughs. The Book of Scripts. With almost 2,000 individually numbered entries, the Book of Scripts is the beating heart of the game. Without it, the game would already have a Robinson Crusoe-esque sense of survival narrative, but with it, the game explodes with unique, detailed, sometimes disturbing descriptions and gray moral choices. At various points in the game, cards will direct players to refer to the book. Some entries are just for flavor. Some allow players to get involved with a dilemma or opt out of it. and some force a choice in what is frequently a moral gray area of survival versus altruism. Note that many reviewers caution players that TIWAM contains material not intended for sensitive players, primarily due to the situations described in the Book of Scripts. I am gifted with the ability to differentiate cardboard from reality, so I am not bothered by the descriptions and choices players are forced to make. However, I can see where some people, particularly young people, might be bothered. Suffice to say, the game is not for kids or people with above average sensitivities, and leave it there. Gameplay. Each game day proceeds as follows. Morning. Each morning, players pick one event from the event deck. Events are almost universally bad. The only question is how bad. One game I had a group of survivors that had good skills for obtaining food. With the 3 food items the game gives you at the start, I thought I was in good shape and could focus on meeting other needs. Strategery. When the first event brought the rats that destroyed all my stored food in one swell foop, I was facing possible starvation before I had done anything. Second, event cards add cold counters that can make your character sick and eventually kill them if left unchecked. Daytime. Each character is granted 0 to 3 actions to do stuff in the safe house. Actions include removing rubble to clean out space, exploring resource locations such as heaps, crafting room improvements, using workshop improvements to craft resources and items, gathering resources, and for true fun, dodging snipers to visit with passers-by. Characters accumulate various status shits as they accumulate fatigue, wounds, sickness, and so forth. The number of actions allowed is determined by the worst of them. For example, if a character has a status indicating only one action is allowed, then it does not matter if other status markers indicate more actions are possible. That character gets 1 action for the turn, and that's it. Dusk. First, characters drink water or suffer a die roll that degrades either their hunger or misery status. Any one status marker that reaches level 4, except fatigue, will remove that character from the game, generally feet first. Survivor groups with only 2 members are hobbled. Solitary survivors are as good as dead. Second, survivors eat. Canned meals are a delicacy, removing 2 hunger levels from a character. Raw food removes 1, and vegetables keep hunger at its present level. Any character that does not eat degrades 1 hunger level. Evening. Each character is assigned a single task to perform. Possibilities include sleep, remove 2 fatigue levels if sleeping on the floor, or all fatigue if sleeping on a bed. Beds are one of the improvements players can build. Guard duty. Be on guard to repel night raiders. Degrade fatigue by 1 level. Failure to assign at least 1 character to guard duty ends the game. Other survivors have taken over your safe house, and your team is likely dead. In some ways, the game reminds me of Nemesis. So many ways to die. Scavenging. Characters assigned to scavenging go out into the night, when the darkness protects them from snipers, well, mostly, to break into and pillage a building located somewhere in the city. 3 locations are always available, rated for distance from the safe house. The closer to the safe house, the more exploration cards that are available for conducting the search. Scavengers expose 1 exploration card each round that can yield caches of goodies, but may also increase the noise level. Failing a die roll versus the current noise level results in the appearance of residents that range from poorly armed schmucks like you to heavily armed and angry irregulars. You really do not want to get into a fight in this game. Nothing good is going to happen. Scavenging has elements of push your luck systems, where careful searches take longer, that is, consume more exploration cards, and aggressive searches make more noise. A cool minigame that works very well indeed. Night raids. Each turn, Those left to guard the safe house may have to fight off intruders of various types attempting to steal the goodies that are in storage. Night raid cards specify the type and amount of goods that will be taken, as well as the number of wounds to be inflicted on the guards. Guards roll to defend themselves and their stash, and may negate the night raid in its entirety. Or the guard may simply dream through the night, sifting through their memories in the book of scripts. Dawn. The scavenging party returns with their booty. Meds and bandages are distributed to the sick and wounded, but many times the cupboard is bare and nothing can be done. Then the card from hell, the fate card, is drawn. Here, the unattended sick and wounded may sink further, or the bandaged and medicated may, or may not, improve one level. One location card may be retired and replaced, and one of 3 so-called spirit ratings on each character card may be invoked. These entries, creatively labeled A, B, and C, provide flavor to each character that makes them unique personalities. Some are good, providing, as an example, extra healing, while some are bad, such as alcoholism and possible other addictions. Then, about the only universally good thing happens. Players draw 2 narrative cards that are always good and keep one for future play. Narrative cards may provide weapons, give more actions, negate noise while scavenging, and other good and useful one-time perks. Characters. In addition to spirit, characters are rated for prowess, which provides rerolls in combat, empathy, which reflects how resistant characters are to ugly experiences, and inventory, which is the amount of weight the character can carry when scavenging. Finally, most have a unique skill that is theirs and theirs alone. Taken together, each brings a unique feel to the game, and with 13 characters provided, the gameplay variability is massive. Evaluation. There is very little to dislike about TIWAM, but I'll try. First, some call the game depressing. I understand that given the subject matter. If you have ever seen the movie The Pianist, you understand what I mean, but I personally think this is exaggerated when it comes to TIWAM. Cardboard is still only cardboard in my world. Second, the publisher states that it can be played with 1 to 4 players. The mechanism used is to place one player completely in control of the game and pass the responsibility on each time a new phase is begun. Other players are not even allowed to so much as touch a piece when another player is the so-called leader. Come on, any solitaire game could claim to be multiplayer under this rule. I don't buy it. Remember that TIWAM is adapted from the computer game, a completely solo experience, and it shows in the board game. The rules organization. The game has no real rule book. Rules are distributed between the journal and the book of scripts, which can make trying to find a rule a bit frustrating. Good news! At least 2 individuals have pulled all the text together and, with the publisher's permission, have uploaded the files to Board Game Geek. You want this. Plus the 1-page solo version of the journal that eliminates a whole lot of page flipping. That's it for the bad stuff. On the good side, the game has a stronger narrative than any other game I can think of. Things happen, even without a book of scripts, that provide character and depth. For example, in one game, I had a group of survivors asking for 5 points of green resources, which is generally food. I didn't have the food, but earlier, an unrelated event said the army had to bid up the price of cigarettes from 1 point to 6 points. So I flipped them a pack of Marlboros and sent them on their way. I still chuckle over that one. The game is really challenging, but without seeming impossible. I have not yet won, but I got within 1 card draw of it once. Deliciously close. So close. Crap. Like Skyrim, the board game is very intelligently adapted from the computer game. Compromises were made where needed, but the flavor is distinctly this war of mine and none other. My bottom line? Even though the game is not marketed as a solitaire game, a more natural positioning in my point of view. I think it is one of the best solitaire gaming experiences out there, right up there with Thunderbolt Apache Leader. So if you've missed the boat on this one like I did, you may circle back and reconsider. I'm glad I did. If you have subscribed, I simply say thank you for all your help and support. If you have not subscribed, please consider going ahead and hitting the subscribe button, hitting the notification bell, and sending a comment. I appreciate it. I read them all and respond to most. But for now, this is Paul, the Oaken Knight, wishing you all a pleasant evening.